Rooted and rising family, take a deep breath and settle in once more. Today we continue the story of Asha and Evander, a story curated and shaped through the energy of tarot and oracle. While the cards guide the emotional currents, tensions, and themes within this world, this is still a story, one allowed to breathe, evolve, and unfold naturally. As always, remember that we are speaking through archetypes, energies, and storytelling. So take what resonates and leave the rest. For this continuation, the story has been inspired by the following cards from the Tarot: the Three of Wands, Strength; the High Priestess, King of Wands; Eight of Wands, the Emperor; Three of Cups, King of Cups, Justice; Nine of Cups, Five of Cups, Five of Pentacles, and the Devil. From the Cosmic Insights Oracle deck, the cards Intimacy, Sexual Chemistry, Reminiscing, Addiction, Challenges. All right, so let's return to the shoreline with Beneath the Firelight. This is The Scent of the Sea, Part 2. Time moved differently after that. Not slower, not softer, just heavier. The connection between Asha and Evander no longer existed only in hidden conversations beneath moonlight or stolen moments along the shore. It had become visible now, established, real enough that people had begun reacting to it whether they wanted to or not. And the pack had noticed. Some had grown accustomed to her presence. Others had even begun warming to her in ways they likely would not admit out loud. Asha had learned the names of several wolves, had walked the grounds of the castle enough times to no longer feel unfamiliar within it, and had developed an unexpected fondness for the Eastern Library and the balcony gardens overlooking the sea cliffs. But not everyone welcomed her. The priestess within her noticed everything. The glances that lingered too long. The conversations that quieted when she entered rooms. The wolves who bowed out of respect, and the ones who only did so only because Evander stood beside her. She said little about it, but she saw it all. And Evander sensed more than she realized. One evening, the pack gathered near the shoreline for one of their seasonal celebrations. Massive bonfires burned against the darkening sky, their reflections flickering across the water as laughter, music, and conversation drifted through the cool night air. Wolves moved freely between human and wolf form along the beach, some drinking, some wrestling near the shore, others dancing recklessly to the pounding rhythm of drums. Asha stood near the firelight, watching it all carefully. "It's louder than your kingdom," Evander murmured beside her. A soft smile touched her lips. "That depends on which part of my kingdom you visit." His gaze lingered on her. She looked beautiful beneath the firelight. Not delicate, not soft in the way others expected beauty to be. Powerful. Her silver jewelry reflected the flames with every movement, and the ocean breeze moved through her curls like the sea itself still claimed her even here on land. Evander's hand settled against the small of her back, possessively, unconsciously. Asha noticed. "You do that often." she said quietly. Do what? Touch me as though you're reminding yourself I'm here. His mouth curved slightly. Maybe I am. The heat in his voice settled low in her stomach. Before she could answer, one of the elders approached Evander from further back down the beach. My king, the older wolf said. A moment. Evander's expression shifted immediately back into leadership. Asha felt it every time. The balance he constantly carried between man, wolf, and ruler. He glanced down at her. I'll be back. She nodded once. Go. His hand slid reluctantly from her waist before he disappeared further along the shoreline with the elder. Asha remained near the fire. At first, everything felt normal. Then she felt it. That stare again. The same young wolf from the courtyard, watching her. This time, there was no uncertainty in his expression, only challenge. Asha held his gaze calmly before turning away, uninterested in entertaining whatever point he was trying to make. Unfortunately, he did not share that disinterest. You always look at everyone like you already know what they're thinking. His voice appeared beside her before his body fully did. Asha didn't turn immediately. No, she replied evenly. Only when they make it obvious. A few nearby wolves quieted subtly, listening. The young wolf stepped closer anyway. You seem comfortable here now. Asha finally looked at him. I wasn't aware that required your approval. A low sound of amusement came from someone nearby. His jaw tightened. You think because the king wants you that makes you untouchable? The air around Asha cooled. Not from fear, from warning. I think, she said carefully, that you continue confusing disrespect with courage. That hit its mark. He stepped closer again. Too close. Close enough now that the challenge in the interaction was unmistakable. I just think it's interesting, he said, lowering his voice. How quickly everyone's expected to accept you. Asha's gaze sharpened slightly. And yet, she replied, you seem unable to stop thinking about me. A few heads turned fully now. The tension had become impossible to ignore. The young wolf's expression darkened. You don't belong here. The words settled heavily between them. Not because they hurt, but because they revealed something deeper. Fear. Asha tilted her head slightly, studying him the way one studies a storm before deciding whether it is worth surviving. You're young, she said calmly. So I will allow you the grace of not fully understanding what you are standing before. His pride flared instantly. I know exactly what I'm standing before. Asha's expression did not change, but the sea behind her did. The tide shifted. The waves that had been rolling gently against the shore pulled back all at once, as though inhaling. The music continued for only a few seconds longer before the drums faltered. The young wolf's eyes flickered past her. Asha did not look away from him. "You know nothing," she says. But her lips did not move. The words entered his mind as clearly as she had spoken them aloud. His face changed. Shock first, then confusion, then the first thin edge of fear. Asha smiled faintly. "Yes, I can hear you," she said into his mind. "I have heard more than you think." The wolves were known to speak without mouths, especially in their shifted forms. Thought to thought, instinct to instinct, pack to pack. But Asha was not pack. She was not wolf. She should not have been able to enter that space. And yet, there she was. Inside the quiet place he had believed belonged only to his kind. The young wolf took half a step back. Asha moved. Not toward him. Not away. She began to dance. Slowly at first. One foot shifting in the sand, then the other. Her hips moving with the rhythm of the firelight and the distant pull of the tide. Her arms lifted, wrist turning with liquid grace, silver bracelets catching the glow of flame and moon. The movement was beautiful, feminine, controlled, but there was nothing harmless in it. The young wolf's eyes locked onto her. He could not look away. Asha's gaze stayed fixed on his. The sea rose behind her, not crashing, not wild, responding. A wall of water lifted from the shoreline into a smooth, impossible curl, curving, glowing with reflected moonlight as it hovered behind her like a living throne. The pack began to step back. Some whispered. Some froze. Asha continued to dance. Every movement commanded something. The water curled forward. It surrounded the young wolf before he could move, forming a clear sphere around him from the shoulders down, then rising higher, enclosing him fully within a suspended prison of sea. He gasped. The bubble held, not drowning him, not yet, but close enough that panic began to tear through his expression. Asha's voice entered his mind again. The first mistake you made was believing my restraint was weakness. Her hips moved in a slow circle, her hands lifting as though gathering invisible threads from the sky. The second was believing your king's protection meant I had none of my own. The wind changed. Asha's head turned slightly toward the open night. Sister of storm, she whispered out loud now, her voice threading through the air like song. Emerald, keeper of thunder, breath of the high realm, Lend me your winds. The clouds above the sea answered. A low roll of thunder moved across the sky. The bonfires bent sharply as wind swept the shoreline, circling Asha without touching her. Lightning flashed far out over the water, then closer, illuminating her in silver blue light. The young wolf trembled inside the spear. Asha's dance did not break. She turned again, graceful and deliberate, one hand lifting above her head as drawing power down through her fingertips. Lightning sparked along her palm, not striking, waiting. She looked at him, and her voice slid into his mind again. You saw me stand beside Evander and thought that made me smaller. You saw me allow him to lead and mistook that for dependence. The water tightened around him. His breath quickened. Asha's eyes darkened. I am empress in my own right. I know how to honor an emperor without surrendering my crown. Her other hand lowered toward the sand. This time the air heated. Brother of flame, she called, her voice deepening with the chant. Keeper of the under realm, ruler of ember and ash, lend me your fire. The flames from the bonfire stretched towards her, not consuming, obeying. Fire gathered in her palm, curling upward in bright, living ribbons. It moved around the spear of water, circling it, heating the air until steam began to rise in pale veils around the trapped young wolf. His horror became full and visible now. He could not move, could not speak, could not look away, and Asha still danced. Storm above her, sea behind her, fire in her hands. Wind moving through her curls like something holy and ancient had recognized her and come when called. Around them, the entire pack stood frozen. This was no longer a question of whether she belonged. This was revelation of who she was. Asha stepped closer to the spear, her movement slowing until every gesture felt ceremonial. Her eyes held his. Hear me clearly, young wolf. The words entered his mind with force of a tide. I allowed your king to step forward before because I respect who he is. I honor his place. I know how to let a man be a man, how to let a king stand as king. The fire circled the water once more. But do not confuse my grace for helplessness. The thunder cracked louder. Do not confuse my softness for surrender. The spear lifted him slightly from the sand. And do not ever again confuse my presence here as something you have the right to challenge. His eyes pleaded now, but Asha was not finished. If you cross me again, there will be no shore, no forest, no sea, no flame, no sky, and no shadowed realm deep enough to hide you from what answers to me. The words were calm. That was what made them terrifying. Then, with one final turn of her wrist, she released everything. The fire vanished. The storm quieted. The wind dropped. The spear of water collapsed all at once. throwing the young wolf hard onto the wet sand. He coughed, gasping, soaking, and shaking. Asha looked down at him only briefly. Then she turned and walked away. No rush, no fear, no explanation. Just the quiet, regal exit of a queen who had already said all that needed to be said. Further down the shoreline, Evander felt it before he saw it. The sharp tear of panic through the pack bond. The sudden silence of the drums. The scent of storm and sea rising too fast. And beneath it all, Asha. Something was wrong. His body moved before thought could finish forming. He shifted mid-stride, bones snapping into wolf form as silver-gray fur rippled across his body. The elder's voice vanished behind him as Evander tore across the sand, massive paws striking the shoreline with brutal speed. By the time he reached the bonfire, the storm had already begun to fade. But he saw enough. The last flash of fire dissolving from Asha's hand. The water dropping. The young wolf collapsing to the sand. And Asha walking away like judgment itself had taken human form. Evander slowed. For one breath, his wolf stood between the firelight and the sea, enormous and silent, golden eyes taking in the scene. No one spoke. No one moved. The pack parted instinctively. His gaze moved first to Asha. Always to Asha. She had stopped several paces away. Her back straight. Her powers still humming through the air around her. He approached slowly. Respectfully. When he reached her, he lowered his great head and brushed it gently against her shoulder. Asha. Her eyes softened immediately. He is fine, she answered telepathically. I know. His gaze shifted briefly toward the young wolf. The wolf immediately lowered his eyes. Leave. The command entered the younger wolf's mind with enough force that there could be no misunderstanding. He stumbled to his feet and disappeared into the darkness without another word. Evander watched him go. Then his attention returned to the woman beside him. He tested me again. Asha said, I know. This time, I answered. Something that looked suspiciously like pride flickered through his golden eyes. Yes, he answered. You did. The pack remained silent, watching, listening, learning. Asha looked toward them. I will not continue proving that I belong where I stand. The statement carried effortlessly. Evander moved beside her, not in front of her, not behind her, beside her, where she belonged. His gaze swept over every wolf gathered on the shoreline. Then let this be the final lesson. The pack immediately straightened. She is not a guest. His voice carried through every bond. She is not curiosity. His eyes hardened. She is Asha, Queen of the Sea, sovereign in her own right. Silence. Complete silence. The next one who forgets that will answer to me after they answer to her. No one challenged him. No one dared. The lesson had been learned, at least for tonight. The bonfire slowly returned to life behind them. The music resumed. The conversations restarted. But the energy had changed. The pack would never look at Asha the same way again. Evander lowered himself slightly beside her. A familiar gesture. An invitation. Asha smiled. Without hesitation, she settled onto his back. One arm slid around his neck. The other rested comfortably against his shoulder as she leaned into the thick silver-gray fur. A low sound of satisfaction rumbled from his chest. The enormous wolf rose smoothly to his feet, then began carrying her toward the castle. The walk home was quiet, peaceful. The moonlight stretched across the path. The sea remained visible beside them for most of the journey. Asha rested her cheek against the top of his head. Her fingers drifted through the fur at his neck. Neither felt any urgency to fill the silence. They simply enjoyed one another's presence, the comfort of it, the certainty of it, the feeling of having someone beside you who understood. Later, after they had left the shoreline behind and the castle lights glowed softly in the distance, Evander finally slowed beneath a grove of ancient trees. Asha slid gracefully from his back. The moment her feet touched the ground, he shifted. Silver-gray fur disappeared, the massive wolf giving way once more to the man beneath. For a moment, neither spoke. The forest around them was quiet. The stars overhead brilliant. The space between them felt smaller than it had all evening. They stood together beneath the trees, caught between restraint and desire. Between everything they were building and everything still trying to pull them apart. Evander's gaze never left her. You were mesmerizing tonight. The words entered her mind softly, even now, as if his wolf still lingered close enough to speak through instinct. Asha smiled, then stepped forward. Her hands rose to his face, and she kissed him, not hurried, not uncertain. A kiss given with intention, with trust, with affection. When she finally pulled away, Evander remained still for a moment, watching her. There was something in his eyes. A question. Asha laughed softly. What? His expression remained entirely serious. Could you do that dance for me someday? The question caught her off guard. Amusement immediately brightened her eyes. A siren's dance? He nodded. She shook her head. No. His brows lifted. No. Asha folded her arms. A siren does not use that dance carelessly. The corner of his mouth twitched. I would hardly call myself careless. She laughed. No, but I would want you to know that I would never do something like that without your permission. I would never use that without your permission. His eyes immediately lit with interest. Then you have it. The eagerness in the answer made her laugh even harder. You have had it since the moment I met you. Asha stepped closer. Then I have a different dance in mind. His expression immediately darkened with interest. Asha began to sway gently from side to side, her hips moving in a slow, mesmerizing rhythm. She began to whine, her body flowing with effortless grace, as though the music lived within her. As she moved, the forest responded. The trees rustled softly, their branches swaying in answer to her dance. A gentle breeze wound its way through the leaves, creating a rhythm that seemed to follow the movement of her body. The whisper of branches, the rustling of leaves, and the sighing wind became her music. She raised her hands above her head and began to move them in time with the rhythm of her hips. Her bodice then began to slip slowly down her waist. Her fingers traced graceful patterns through the air. And then Evander's chest, while her body continued to wind and sway. The movement traveled through her entire form, from her shoulders to her wrist, through her abdomen and hips, and every part of her moved as one. She danced as though she and the forest shared the same heartbeat. The trees answered every motion. When she swayed, their branches swayed. When she turned, the wind circled around her. When she wound her body to the rhythm, the leaves whispered their approval. Then she gazed at Evander. A playful smile touched her lips as she moved against him, allowing her body to sway and roll with the rhythm she had created. She leaned her weight against him for a moment, never breaking the dance, never taking her eyes from his. The forest continued its song around them. The wind drifted through the clearing, lifting the fabric of her gown and sending it flowing around her legs. Leaves danced across the forest floor while moonlight filtered through the branches above, painting silver patterns upon the earth. Finally, she reached for Evander's hand. Without a word, she led him deeper into the forest until they arrived beneath a great willow tree, its long branches draped around them like a natural curtain, shielding them from the rest of the world. There, beneath the sheltering willow, with the forest still singing its song around them, they continued their dance together. The days that followed did not bring peace, not fully, but they brought consequence. The young wolf was removed from the inner training circle until further judgment could be made. The elders met privately with Evander. The pack spoke in whispers, some uneasy, some impressed, some openly shaken by what they had seen. Asha did not apologize. Evander did not ask her to. Instead, something shifted in the castle. Those who had dismissed her became careful. Those who had doubted her became quiet. And those who had already sensed her strength began to look at her with a different kind of respect. Still, respect born of fear was not the same as acceptance. Asha knew that. Evander knew it too. But the wheel had turned. There was no going back to pretending she was merely a guest. One evening, several nights after the bonfire, Asha returned to the Eastern Library. She had always loved that room. The height of the shelves, the scent of aged pages, the quiet. There was something sacred about knowledge kept carefully, waiting for the right hands to open it. Evander found her near the long table beneath the upper gallery, one book open in front of her, and 3 more stacked beside it. "You've been avoiding the council chambers," he said. Asha did not look up. "I have been avoiding being stared at like a prophecy that made everyone uncomfortable." "That is specific." "It is accurate." He came closer, amusement tugging briefly at his mouth. Then his expression sombered. They are afraid of what they cannot categorize. Asha finally looked at him. And you? I stopped trying to categorize you the night you rose from the sea. Something in her softened despite herself. He sat beside her. For a moment they said nothing. Then Asha closed the book. I heard them today. Evander's gaze sharpened slightly. Who? 2 of your councilmen. They were speaking in the west corridor. His expression darkened. What did they say? That I have too much influence over you. He exhaled slowly. And? That if you choose me, the pack will never be what it was. Evander leaned back slightly, his eyes fixed ahead. That might be right. Asha watched him. He turned to her. If I choose you publicly, and I will, it changes things. Yes. If I make room for your world inside mine, then mine cannot remain untouched. No. His eyes held hers. And if your world makes room for me? Asha's answers came quieter. Then mine changes too. There it was, the weight of it all. Not romance alone, not desire alone, emerging, a cost, a future that required more than longing. Evander reached for her hand across the table. I don't want you left outside my world, he said. Asha looked at their joined hands. And I don't want to disappear inside it. His thumb moved across her knuckles. Then we built something neither of us has seen before. She looked up at him. That sounds simple when you say it. It won't be. No. But I want it. Her gaze softened. I know. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. Do you? The question was not insecurity. It was intimacy. A request to be met honestly. Asha held his gaze. Yes, she said, I do. The silence that followed was warm, charged. His eyes moved over her face with the same hunger she had felt from him since the first night at the shore. But now it carried more than desire. It carried memory. All the nights he had waited for her scent. All the times she had watched him from the water. All the conversations that had turned strangers into something neither of them could undo. Evander lifted her hand and kissed her fingers. Asha's breath shifted. Careful, she murmured. His mouth curved against her skin. With you? With us? His eyes lifted. That might be the first impossible thing you've asked of me. In the weeks that followed, they learned that wanting each other was the easiest part. The harder part was everything around the wanting. There were meetings where Evander had to remind his council that fear was not wisdom. There were evenings Asha returned to the sea to answer concerns from her own court who wondered whether the Land King understood the weight of loving someone born of water and crown. There were moments when the castle felt too tight around her. Moments when the sea felt too far from him. Moments when both of them were forced to face the old wounds that made trust feel like surrender. And still, they kept choosing. Not perfectly. Not without frustration. But honestly. One evening, long after the council meeting had ended and the castle had finally grown quiet, Asha slipped away to the shoreline. The moon hung low over the water, painting silver across the waves. She smiled when she found him there. Evander was already waiting, not as king, not as emperor, not as the man burdened with counsels, responsibilities, and expectations. Just himself. A massive silver-gray wolf stretched comfortably along the sand near the water's edge. His ears lifted the moment he caught her scent. Vanilla, brown sugar, honey, always honey. Asha laughed softly. You knew I was coming. I always know when you're coming. She shook her head. Show off. A pleased mumble echoed from his chest. Without another word, she settled beside him, then against him. His thick fur was warm beneath her fingers, comforting, safe. Asha leaned fully into his side, resting her head against him while one hand disappeared into the silver-gray fur around his neck. Immediately, his tail thumped once against the sand. Asha smiled. You are entirely too pleased with yourself. I have no idea what you're talking about. The lie was so obvious she laughed. The sound carried softly across the shoreline. For a while they simply listened. The waves, the winds, the steady rhythm of each other's presence. No counsels, no pack politics, no expectations, just peace. Asha traced absent circles behind one of his ears. One of his eyes immediately opened. There it is, she grinned. There what is? The reason you came. Her laugh returned. You are impossible. And yet you keep coming back. Asha's smile softened. Her fingers stilled in his fur. I do. The answer settled between them. Simple, honest, true. Evander shifted slightly, pressing more of his weight against her. Protective, possessive, comforting, home. The sea rolled gently onto the shore before retreating once more. Asha watched the water. Do you ever worry about it? About what? All of it. The kingdoms, the pack, the sea, the future. Everything still waiting for them. For a moment, Evander was silent. Then, no. One brow lifted. No. Not because it will be easy. His golden eyes turned toward her. Because whatever comes, we will meet it together. Asha held his gaze and smiled. Not because the road ahead would be simple, not because every problem had been solved, but because she believed him. Their waves continued their endless song. The stars burned brightly overhead, and there between the sea and shore, queen and king, empress and emperor, wolf and siren, they rested together. Not finished, not certain of every step ahead, but no longer walking alone. And for now, that was enough. As always, stay rooted, stay rising, and aligned with all the divine gifts ahead.